fuck, shit, ouch, hot. That's what I get for being a clown. Anyway, like I was gonna say before I interrupted myself, last night I went and seen Obsession for the second time, and frankly, I'm obsessed, you know. It's a fantastic movie, and I just feel compelled to yap about it, so I'm gonna. Oh, god damn it, that's hot. Tea. What kind? I don't know. It was some vitamin C, autoimmune health shit. Some fucking concoction. Anyway, Obsession. This movie does, in my opinion, pretty much everything right. Even on just like a very fundamental storytelling standpoint. I feel like if more movies just all across the board would make sure to check some of these boxes that Obsession does, with again some of these aspects of it that are just very fundamental concepts of writing and storytelling, I feel like it would make just a lot of movies, a lot of modern cinema, infinitely better. Because a lot of the attention to detail and the care that goes into how everything flows and everything calls back to itself, and not a single second is wasted, it just shows a level of care and attention and passion that seems lacking in a lot of modern horror, especially, that feels very easy, very cheap, very yes and sort of storytelling, where it's just like on to the next thing, on to the next bit, on to the next jump scare, on to the next, you know. Whereas Obsession does a very good job of making sure, again, like I said a second ago, not a moment of its runtime is wasted. To kind of go along with that, it feels like it moves at a breakneck speed. So I'm going to start getting into a bit more specifics here, so spoiler warnings and all that. But the movie starts off perfectly, in my opinion. It does exactly what the introduction to any film, not just horror, literally any movie ever should do, which is it gives us a very good idea of each of our individual characters and their dynamics between one another. Immediately when the movie starts, we get this long-held shot and monologue from our main character, Bear, and just with this very immediate introduction alone, this minute-long yap from him, we are immediately told, just because of how hard it's focusing on him, hey, this is our protagonist, and we get a very good idea of who he is as a guy. He's very awkward, he's timid, he's kind of sensitive, like, frankly, a bit of a beta bitch, let's be real. He's just, you know, he's a bit of a softie, you know. And this introductory scene, and I feel like a lot of the first 15-20 minutes of this movie, up until he breaks the One-Wish Willow, really make you kind of care for and like Bear as a character. Maybe not necessarily like him, but like maybe pity, kind of like see where he's coming from and feel for him to some extent, which makes his transformation throughout it into, or maybe not even his transformation, just makes the gradual reveal of his intensely selfish true colors throughout the rest of the film, like, all the more kind of disheartening from the viewer's perspective, which I feel like is kind of an interesting way to present it, because I feel like presenting him in this way kind of brings us along a similar journey of perception of Bear as Nikki does throughout the film, where at first, you know, we kind of perceive him similar to what I would imagine she does at the beginning. A nice, likable, easy to be around, if a little, like, pussy-ish kind of guy. Like, you know, someone you could befriend. But then, as he abuses and as he kind of takes advantage of this situation he got everybody into, your perception of him shifts to the point where by the end you just fucking detest the guy. Like, you just absolutely hate the man. And even, like, at the very moment where he breaks the One Wish Willow, you can kind of understand why he does it from his perspective. It's been a rough day, it's very emotional, kind of off the cuff. Fuck it, my cat died, this shit all went to hell, what the fuck is going on? My pussy hurts. Snap. You can, and especially considering, like, there's literally no fucking reason in hell for him to believe in a million years that this $7 toy from a fucking hippie shop is gonna do anything. So it's kind of understandable that he breaks it, but then it just gets harder and harder and harder, and frankly impossible after, like, a half hour or so into, post-wish, you know what I'm saying? It just gets harder to defend him as he very intentionally and selfishly perpetuates the whole situation, kind of plays along, even though Nikki very immediately starts doing really fucking weird shit. Like, the second after he breaks the One Wish Willow, she's acting like she's in a complete manic episode. Much less the next morning when she made a fucking shrine of his dead cat. Like, alarm bells? Maybe, brother? Like, I don't know. And even, what, like, 20 minutes from the end, I would say, when, Nikki is asleep and Nikki herself manages to sort of speak through her sleeping body and literally begs Bear to kill her. And he's just like, I'm leaving. You know, and at that point it's beyond the point of indefensible, because he's been fucking this puppet, essentially, of Nikki that's, you know, it's hard to tell what exactly is going on with Nikki throughout the film. Is her soul still in her body, but she's just kind of being puppeteered around by whatever deity, demon, thing, energy is brought about by the One Wish Willow, or is Nikki's soul somewhere separate? Does she have any idea of what's going on while she's possessed or whatever? Because that is one of the only really vague feeling parts of the movie. Because the phone call Bear makes to the One Wish Willow company feels like it implies that Nikki's soul is somewhere else. Whatever hell, fucking purgatory sort of place that he called, and whatever demon or guy he was talking to was in with her. But then her talking in her sleep as the real Nikki feels like it implies the opposite, that Nikki's soul is still in her body and it is just being puppeteered by something greater, you know? Maybe not greater, but more powerful. So that was kind of a derailed yap about just Bear's character in general. To go back towards the beginning, immediately after Bear's little yap, we get introduced to his buddy, who is like a very strong dichotomy against Bear's timid, sort of loser, shut-in, introvert personality. I cannot remember his fucking friend's name for the life of me. I can't. But he's much more dude bro. He's confident. He's bombastic. He's fucking hilarious throughout the whole movie. Even though he's not, like, exactly spewing one-liners, his reactions are just so on point during a lot of the uncomfortable scenes. For example, during his little party, when, possessed Nikki is doing all that weird shit If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm on about. His reactions themselves aren't really jokes, you know, it's just kind of how someone would naturally react. But I don't know if it's just because of the uncomfortable nature of the scene that brings a laugh out of you, just to fucking, like, break the fucking cringe or whatever, but or maybe it's just his delivery and his facial expressions, but it's fucking hilarious. It's really funny. For being, like, such an uncomfortable and creepy-ass fucking movie, it really is hilarious, like, consistently. But not in a way that breaks the very melancholic tone that the movie has set. Speaking of that melancholic tone, I'm going to break away from talking about characters for a second to praise the soundtrack. The soundtrack is absolutely fucking phenomenal. It's got this very airy, spacey, ethereal sort of vibe that reminds me of a lot of that dreamcore shit that was trending on TikTok some years back. It's very droning and synthy, and again, just really adds to that sort of miserable atmosphere that the whole movie has lingering over it. Particularly the track Love is in the Air, which is a motif that comes around once shortly after he broke the One Wish Willow, and, like, Nikki's still acting vaguely, almost nearly relatively normal. It's during the little montage of, like, them dating and being a couple, and their friends are like, "What's going on there? Something don't seem right." And it returns to towards the very end, but I called that one out in particular because it's just a fucking fantastic song. It is such a beautiful piece of music that perfectly fits the scenes it's used in, with its deeply nostalgic and, again, melancholic vibe that also has this strange air of romance to it. But also contains this droning layer under it all that kind of just, like, reminds you that something's not quite right. Even as beautiful as it may seem, and as fantastic as it may seem, something's not quite right. This is off, you know? Which feels like it fits very thematically with what's going on when it's used. So, props, soundtrack. In fact, I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I'm listening to it right now as I yap. And then going back to the beginning, a couple scenes later, we're introduced to our other two main characters, Nikki, who's this very bubbly, energetic, not hyper, but just bubbly and energetic, and struggling to find the right adjectives here. Very, I don't know, I'm literally just struggling to find adjectives here. Bubbly and energetic girl, who's got this very bright, in-your-face sort of vibe that seems to kind of contrast Bear's entire character, whereas their other friend, I can't remember if it's Sarah or Savannah, I think it's Sarah, so that's what I'm going to go with, but she seems like a much better fit for Bear, which is explored throughout the film, as she's much more reserved and laid back and calm and kind of artsy in her nature. And the first 15 minutes are spent showing us these characters as I've described them and their dynamics with one another. And in such a short time, it does such a fantastic job of getting you to feel like you know these characters and getting you to care about them, especially getting you to care about Bear, which is, again, impressive considering how much you fucking hate him by the end of the movie. You really start to feel for him with that gut punch of him losing his cat right at the beginning, especially if you are a cat lover. Like, it's like, oh, no, not the cat. You kind of feel for him. But then as soon as the One Wish Willow shit hits the fan and Nikki starts acting weird, I think it has one of the film has one of the greatest slow escalations that I've ever seen in anything ever. It feels a lot like a really well-written internet horror story in that way. It doesn't just jump straight into Nikki going full psycho and killing people and like, I'm gonna watch you in your sleep. No, it takes a couple days to get to that, but it does get there. She just starts acting very emotionally weird and doing a little bit of weird shit and like being a little clingy, you know, staring at him a lot. And at first it's a little jarring and uncomfortable because she's acting much different than she was literally 10 minutes ago. And you know, the persistent staring can be a little like, okay, being a little creepy, but sure. But then I would say the first like big red flag is, again, like I mentioned a little bit ago, when the cat when she makes a fucking little memorial for the cat that included its corpse. You can't do that, Nikki. Like Bear said, that's fucked. And from there, the cracks just start really showing, and you know, she just starts getting clingier and clingier, asking to stand right outside the bathroom while he goes, and you have the whole scene when he wakes up in the middle of the night and she's staring in the corner, and ooh, I don't like it, it's creepy as fuck. That creepy bitch just standing in the corner like, go back to sleep. She talks creepy, she acts creepy. It's just very unsettling, very effective at building tension that doesn't quite get released, but it just, like, it doesn't need to. It just keeps you on edge the whole time and really, really uncomfortable, which is, I think, a bit more effective than just, uh-oh, the music cut out, uh-oh, jump scare, you know? But her actions only get worse. There's a bit of a comedic twang to her behavior with shit like her smiles and her frowns and such. That was a much better frown. Her frowns and her smiles and like duct taping the door and shit. There's some stuff that's funny, but then, you know, there's making a sandwich out of the cat. There's stabbing yourself with a wine bottle at the friend's party. And all throughout this, while she's getting more obsessed and more clingy, you know, cracks start showing in her story. Bear, it starts to build a sort of rift between Bear and his friends that feels very natural and very real, but doesn't feel played up. Like, you can tell that his friends still very much so care about him and Nikki, but are recognizing that something's fucking wrong and something's really weird, but we're not sure what, and we don't really want to throw around accusations, but like, what the fuck? And that's just done perfectly. They don't build a cartoonish divide so that they can be brought back together at the end. No, they just, like, they acknowledge it in a very real way and move past it together. And all along this, Bear and the Sarah girl start getting closer and closer and start having a much more natural connection forming, and Bear starts, I can't tell if it's inadvertently or very intentionally, flirting with her in, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it seems like he was taking the exact advice that his friend gave him in that very first scene in the diner and using it on the Sarah girl instead of Nikki, who he just fucking ripped the autonomy away from and was like, "Be mine forever, bitch." Like, you can't do that, Bear. Alright? You can't. It's not acceptable, alright? Let's just be real. I digress. But their, Bear and Sarah's little fling relationship thing comes to a head in one of the best scenes in the movie, if you ask me, which is the only time we actually see Nikki get violent, wherein Sarah invites or has Bear come to her car in the park at like 3 in the morning so they can open a letter from a college, whether it be acceptance or rejection. The last one that she was waiting for, and that's been a plot point throughout the whole film. That, you know, she's been applying to all these colleges and getting rejected from all of them, and she has this one last letter, and she just wanted to talk to Bear, and they have a really, really nice one-to-one that, again, leads to some very heartwarming, natural connections that are fucking horribly, viciously, gorily ripped away after. So this whole scene builds up suspense really, really effectively, because the way it's shot is with Sarah or Bear in their respective car seat with their respective window very clear behind them. And you just know something is going to come from one of those windows. Something's going to happen. They're going to be involved in the scare. But both of the characters are shot in the same way, so you don't even know which one is going to get the fucking mallet. You don't know what exactly is coming, and it just fucking holds you and grips you in that for like a minute before Nikki comes smashing in with a brick. Fucking, it's a horribly upsetting scene, but it got a chuckle out of me like both times, because it's just like, God damn, did you really need to do all that? The little honks of the horn with each fucking wallop, like, ooh. And then for one last little emotional gut punch that makes the whole little plot line of her college applications worthwhile in the movie is when Bear drives off after hiding her body and opens the letter to find that she got accepted at her dream college. So, you know, that's just one more little slap in the fucking face. And Nikki's dialogue after killing Sarah is fucking bone-chilling. She runs over as Bear's like fucking hyperventilating in his seat, tweaking out, probably trying not to have a heart attack. And she comes over and opens the door and is hugging and rubbing up on him, and she's like, "Oh no, just know you did this. This is your fault. Sarah is your fault. You did this. You wanted this." In like such a horribly, nightmarishly assuring and comforting, almost like maternal tone that fucking gave me chills both times I went to see it. It's just like, it's one of the more sickening fucking lines of hers. It's just like, I don't know, it's just fucking, it's rough. It's rough. But then, like I was saying, Bear drives off, and I think I already talked about that. And then there's the end of the film. So like I was saying earlier, I mentioned towards the beginning how everything that's set up gets paid off. The cat dies in the beginning, it becomes relevant twice later with the little mural she makes and the sandwich. They have the little food critic talk, it becomes relevant later, when she makes lunch for him. It puts, my little food critic, what's the verdict on cat? The pills that the cat eats come back at the end. The willow that he drops on the floor towards the end comes back at the very end. There's just a lot of little things, like even some blinking you'll miss it things, like what I just mentioned, towards the end of the film, when Bear is begging Nikki to break the One Wish Willow for him and just break the whole fucking thing. Because he found out either someone else needs to counteract his wish or he needs to kill himself, essentially. So he tried to get his friend to do it, but his friend didn't really believe him and blew his wish on $1 million. Which he should have just stayed home after. I don't know why exactly he came to Bear's. Bear even warned him about not coming over, and he wouldn't have got his fucking head popped off if he wouldn't have, so... You know, it's an effective little shock, but realistically, why the fuck did he go over? In the whole ending sequence, too, I think it's really kind of creepy, effective, unsettling how Nikki has tried her damnedest very clearly to try to become Sarah. She's scribbled all over herself the vague shapes of Sarah's tattoos with a Sharpie. She's in her dress. All this really fucking, like, kind of monstrous shit. That just, like, again, is just another step up in the gradual progression of this obsession. Tea's almost gone. I don't want to spoil the whole ending sequence. I'll just leave it with this. The last 15 minutes, once Bear gets back to his place after his friend wastes the One Wish Willow on $1 million, or $1 billion, it's one of the best endings to a movie I've ever seen. It's just such a fucking 1-2 punch of like, holy shit, no way. Holy shit, no way. Holy fuck! And ending it with Nikki coming to and, like, just having to live with the repercussions of all the carnage that's happened, that's going to probably get pinned on her. It's fucking insane. It's just, it's horrifying. It's a fantastic ending to a fan-fucking-tastic movie that I really hope this little unscripted, off-the-cuff, partially stoned yap did at least some amount of justice to. If you haven't seen it, go watch Obsession. When it comes out on physicals, buy Obsession. I'm very excited to see what else Curry Barker has cooking up. Thank you.